The film opens not in the realm of men, but with an angel named Gabriel, a celestial being whose sole earthly mission is to save distracted, phone-obsessed drivers from impending doom. We see him in action, manifesting just in time to warn a texting woman before a catastrophic crash. She slams her brakes, avoiding the car ahead of her by mere inches. Gabriel vanishes into thin air. Moments later, he intervenes again, stopping another driver from plowing into two pedestrians. And right after that, Gabriel saves a struggling young man named Arge from rear-ending another car. But this time, Gabriel pauses. He is visibly moved by Arge, sensing the heavy, quiet sorrow of a man who just learned he was rejected for a desperately needed job.
We follow Arge as he stands in an agonizing hours-long line at a trendy bakery. We quickly learn the grueling reality of his life. He is an independent gig worker for a delivery app, tasked with picking up pastries for a faceless customer. He waits 2 full hours, only for the worker behind the counter to casually announce that they are completely sold out. Desperate, Arge calls the customer, pleading with him not to cancel the order after a 2-hour wait. But the notification chimes anyway. The customer cancels. Just then, a wealthy venture capitalist named Jeff strolls into the bakery and effortlessly claims a fresh box of pastries. Arge is stunned. The worker shrugs it off, explaining that Jeff is a major investor in the bakery, meaning his orders are strictly reserved. Beaten down, Arge moves on to his next grueling gig, delivering a heavy washing machine. While inside the home, he strikes up a conversation with the owner's young son. The kid excitedly shares his dream of becoming an archaeologist, but a cynical, exhausted Arge shoots him down. He tells the kid that even if he graduates, he'll never find a job in that field. The kid's spirit is crushed. As a direct result, the boy's father hits Arge with a devastating negative rating on the app. Arge's day is far from over. He heads to his second job, working sales on the floor of a manufacturing factory. He bumps into a fiery, driven coworker named Elena. She asks if he is actually satisfied with this life. Arge admits he hates the job, but he's just grinding part-time to survive. Elena passionately suggests they demand their full rights from management. But Arge waves her off. He tells her he's just passing through and doesn't care about the factory's politics. Elena immediately writes him off as passive and negative, walking away in disappointment. Later, after his shift, Arge sits down to eat and randomly crosses paths with Elena again. The walls begin to come down. Elena reveals her true passion is crafting custom furniture, while Arge confesses his ultimate dream, directing documentary films. Seeing his vulnerability, Elena shifts from judgment to encouragement, assuring him he will find his breakthrough. High above, invisible to the world, Gabriel watches this intimate moment unfold, and a deep desire to help Arge achieve his dreams takes root in the angel's heart. The night ends and the stark reality of Arge's life is revealed. He doesn't have a home. He parks his car on a dark street and prepares to sleep in the driver's seat. His phone rings. It's his dad. When his father asks about his new apartment, Arge swallows his pride and lies, pretending everything is perfectly fine. He hangs up and closes his eyes in the cold car, while Gabriel continues his silent watch.
Gabriel then ascends to a celestial gathering of angels. An angel named Azrael steps forward, recounting the story of a man who was inches away from throwing himself over a massive waterfall. Azrael explains how he simply placed a hand on the man's shoulder and showed him a vision of his own future, cheering for his son at a soccer game, glowing with happiness beside his wife. That singular glimpse of worth was enough to pull the man back from the ledge. Gabriel is profoundly moved. He realizes he doesn't just want to stop traffic accidents, he wants to save human souls. Gabriel approaches Martha, the formidable head angel, and begs her to assign him life-altering missions like Azrael's. He brings up Arge, arguing that the young man desperately needs divine intervention. But Martha is unyielding. Gabriel's sole jurisdiction is texting drivers, nothing more. The next day, the delivery app sends Arge to a massive, luxurious estate. The owner answers the door, and Arge immediately recognizes him. It's Jeff, the same billionaire who took the pastries. Jeff casually mentions his assistant recently quit and directs Arge to clean a massive, cluttered garage. Arge works relentlessly and presents Jeff with a flawlessly organized space. Impressed, Jeff offers a 1-week trial run as his personal assistant. Arge accepts in a heartbeat. Arge steps into a world of pure luxury. He manages Jeff's schedule and serves him gourmet meals while Jeff lounges in a pristine pool. Jeff hands Arge a blank check credit card to handle household expenses. Curious, Arge finally asks how Jeff made his fortune. Jeff reveals he's a venture capitalist who funds startups, and crucially, he is a major investor in the very delivery app that has been exploiting Arge. But the new gig pays off. Arge finally makes enough cash to rent a real room, leaving his car behind. Things are looking up. Arge secures a date with Alina, but shortly before they're supposed to meet, she calls to cancel, explaining she got into a terrifying car crash. She assures an anxious Arge that she is unhurt, and they agree to reschedule for the following night. The next day, Jeff casually reveals a loaded handgun hidden in the safe, warning Arge that their high-end neighborhood is a prime target for robberies. Arge is visibly terrified, admitting he wouldn't know how to shoot it. Arge then asks to leave early for his rescheduled date. Jeff agrees, recommending an ultra-exclusive restaurant and even lending Arge a tailored designer jacket to wear. The date is pure magic. Elena admits she misjudged him, realizing he is actually full of ambition. They connect on a deep level. But then, the check arrives. It is astronomically high. Arge's heart drops. In a moment of desperate pride, he refuses Elena's help and swipes Jeff's corporate credit card. The next morning, the illusion shatters. Jeff confronts Arge. He gets instant alerts for the card. Arge scrambles, promising to pay him back, but Jeff is entirely unmoved. He fires Arge on the spot. Devastated, Arge wanders into a cheap diner and falls asleep at a booth. The waiter aggressively shakes him awake and throws him out into the cold. And just when Arge thinks he has hit rock bottom, he discovers his car has been towed. He stands frozen on the empty street, utterly broken. That's when Gabriel decides to break the cosmic rules. The angel materializes before Arge, revealing his glowing wings. He tells Arge he knows everything about his struggles. Gabriel promises that the future holds beauty and grants Arge a vision. He sees himself as a full-time delivery driver, living with Elena in a chaotic, overcrowded house. Arge stares at the vision and shakes his head. It doesn't inspire him. He tells the angel his life is worthless and that the only life he wants is Jeff's. Gabriel warns Arge that Jeff's life isn't the paradise he thinks it is. To prove it, Gabriel places a hand on Arge's shoulder. In a flash of cosmic light, reality rewrites itself. Arge wakes up behind the wheel of Jeff's luxury sports car. He drives up to the mansion, only to find Jeff wearing an assistant's uniform, ready to take his orders. Arge is completely disoriented until he looks at the framed photos on the walls. Jeff's face has been replaced by his own. Gabriel appears and explains the rules of the miracle. He swapped their lives and temporarily erased Jeff's memory. Gabriel gives Arge 1 week to test drive being a billionaire before making a final choice. The next day is pure bliss. Arge lounges by the pool while Jeff brings him drinks. Operating as a confident billionaire, Arge smoothly charms Elena, asking her out to dinner, and they spend an incredible, lavish evening together. When the week concludes, Gabriel returns, expecting Arge to have learned a moral lesson about the emptiness of wealth. He asks if Arge is ready to return to his struggles. Arge laughs and flatly refuses. Gabriel is furious, but admits a cosmic loophole. He cannot force the swap back without Arge's explicit consent. Arge smiles. He is staying rich. Gabriel is summoned before a raging Martha. She tears into him for playing God. Martha then drops a devastating truth. Elena's car crash was never supposed to happen. Gabriel was so distracted obsessing over Arge that he failed to stop the accident. If Gabriel had just done his job, Jeff would never have fired Arge. Because of his massive interference, Martha strips Gabriel of his wings and his angelic powers until he can fix the broken timeline. The next day, Arge throws an opulent party at the mansion. A mortal, powerless Gabriel approaches Arge and explains his punishment, but Arge couldn't care less.
Desperate, Gabriel walks up to Jeff and touches his shoulder, shattering the amnesia. Jeff's memories flood back instantly. He realizes he is the billionaire, but the cosmic lock remains. He can't touch a dime of his fortune unless Arge permits the swap. The sheer psychological shock causes Jeff to collapse.
When Jeff regains consciousness, he flies into a rage, screaming at Arge to return his life. Guilt finally chips away at Arge. He agrees to swap back, but demands a few more days of luxury first. Jeff has no choice but to accept. Penniless, Jeff checks into a seedy motel, accompanied by Gabriel, who now requires sleep and food just like a human. To survive, the former billionaire is forced to log into the delivery app, taking on Arge's exact old life. He stands in brutal, agonizing lines for pennies. Jeff and the fallen angel end up sleeping in the cramped front seat of a car, experiencing the exact torment Arge lived through. Meanwhile, a wealthy Arge arrogantly tells Elena she needs to stop grinding at work and start enjoying life. Insulted by his sudden condescension, Elena walks out on him. Frustrated, Arge speeds off in his sports car. He looks down to read a text and violently crashes, slipping into a deep coma.
Gabriel delivers the grim news to Jeff. Because Arge is unconscious, he cannot consent to the swap. They are entirely trapped in this nightmare until he wakes up. Jeff is horrified. Completely broke, Jeff begs Gabriel to get a job. The former angel takes a gig scrubbing dishes in a grimy kitchen, discovering the crushing reality of minimum wage. Finally, Arge opens his eyes in his hospital bed. Knowing Jeff and Gabriel are looking for him, Arge asks the nurse a calculated question. Could a head injury cause amnesia? She confirms it is highly possible. Arge is discharged and returns to the mansion. Jeff rushes over, desperate for the swap. But Arge plays his trump card. He fakes severe amnesia, staring blankly at Jeff as if he were a stranger. Jeff's world collapses. The universe then delivers its final blows to Jeff. His delivery ratings plummet, and the app deactivates his account. Moments later, his car is towed due to unpaid parking tickets. Gabriel quietly points out the poetry of the universe. Jeff is experiencing the exact sequence of tragedies Arge endured the day he was fired. Pushed to the absolute brink, Jeff decides to rob his own house. He sneaks into the mansion during Arge's chaotic birthday party, cracks his own safe, and grabs his luxury watches. But Arge steps into the doorway, remembering the exact advice Jeff gave him weeks ago about home invasions. Arge raises the handgun and fires. Jeff goes down. As Arge stands over the bleeding man, he realizes who he just shot. Jeff. Clutching his wound, Arge realizes Arge's memory is perfectly intact. Arge rushes Jeff to the hospital, where he survives. Standing by the hospital bed, Arge finally breaks. He apologizes for the shooting and the fake amnesia, confessing he was just terrified of going back to crushing poverty. He turns to Gabriel and asks how they actually trigger the swap. Gabriel reveals the final cosmic rule. Arge must choose his old life not out of pity for Jeff, but because he genuinely believes his own life is worth living. Unable to make that leap just yet, Arge invites Jeff and Gabriel to live in the mansion with him until they figure it out. A strange, surreal brotherhood forms. But Gabriel's spirit is broken. He admits he is a failure and apologizes for destroying Jeff's life. He tells Arge he is officially giving up. It is clear Arge wants to be a billionaire. Arge looks at his celestial friend and finally speaks his truth. He tells Gabriel he never cared about the mansions. He just wanted to stop hurting. Arge realizes the truth. He will never be Jeff. Arge looks at his hands and says he wants to go back. He wants to bet on himself, rely on his own grit, and see exactly what his real life can become. Gabriel's face lights up with a tearful smile. He reaches out and firmly grasps Arge's shoulder. In a breathtaking surge of energy, the universe snaps back into place. Arge is back in his own clothes. Gabriel's massive, glowing wings burst from his back. And Jeff wakes up in his own luxurious bed, a billionaire once again. But Jeff is a changed man. The very next morning, he storms into his corporate boardroom and demands an immediate, massive salary increase for all gig workers on their delivery app. When the board hesitates, Jeff violently reminds them he is the majority shareholder, forcing the vote through.
Across town, Arge walks to the impound lot and discovers Jeff's corporate office just wired the money to clear all his debts. Arge drives back to the factory, but he isn't the same passive worker. He confidently submits an application for a prestigious documentary filmmaking grant. He then drives to Elena's shop. She smiles when she sees him. They walk out into the city together, sharing a meal, laughing under the streetlights, finally ready to build a life worth living.